So, summertime is approaching, and we know it's a great opportunity for photographers to take a bit of a step back from the day to day and take some great shots. But what do you do when you need to mix that with enjoying a holiday with your nearest and dearest? Well, we've got just the person to talk about this today, and that is David Clapp. Thanks for joining, David. How you doing?
I'm fine, thanks very much, and thanks for having me. Yes, some advice to give everybody about how to travel with a camera on holiday and keep the flow going. That's probably one of the hardest aspects, I would say, and I've got some good advice to help you with that.
Lovely. Let's start off with kind of tell us a bit about yourself, and then we'll go into some of the challenges that people can face when being on holiday with their kit.
Okay, sorry, I've been a travel photographer for I can't think 15 years, and when I was first a landscape photographer, I realised that I was getting bored quite quickly, so I got into architecture. And then
Okay.
after that, I realised that if I shot architecture and I shot landscape in a foreign country, then does that make me a travel photographer? And I realised that it does. It does make me a travel photographer by default. So in 2006, I started heading off to different countries very tentatively. I wasn't working full time as a photographer at that point. I was a guitar teacher, and I used to get to a half-term break or an Easter holidays, and me and my wife would head off. Now, I realised right at the very start that whenever I was doing this, I didn't want to be in a situation where I was handbraking my holiday with my wife, who deserved a holiday as much as I did,
Mm.
but also that I wanted to keep the flow moving as fast as possible so that we could see things that she enjoyed. I could see things that I was interested in. And maybe what I could do was just have a bit of a hit list, work things out, and then move forwards. Operating as quickly as I could. She's not impatient by any means, but she likes to keep things going. And I can
Mm.
imagine if you have children, for example, I don't have kids, but if you have children and you've got activities and things that you've got planned to do, that you believe somehow that your photography could be completely compartmentalized into a specific hour or two of the day, and that's it. But that's not necessarily the case. And
Mm.
I've got some advice today for everybody, I think, that will cover you in every circumstance, including how to scope places out and then perhaps return later, or how to shoot whilst you're doing other things at the same time. So all sorts of different bits of stuff. But one of the things I thought I'd mention, which I think would be a good plan, is to talk about the equipment that I use when I do travel. And all right, I take a case with an awful lot of gear, often more than I'm allowed in hand luggage, which I then stuff inside every pocket of my jacket that I've got. But at the same time, I could, if I really needed to, reduce that down to one camera and two lenses.
Okay.
So I've got a recommendation to start with. Now I use this smaller camera. It's got a weird L bracket on the side of it because I use it with my Arca Swiss tripod head. This is an EOS RP, and this is relatively cheap. I think it's roughly around about £1,000. Brand new, hell of a camera, 26 megapixels, absolutely ideal for travel photography in that sense. So I really,
Yeah,
really
lovely.
do recommend it. You could then just have something like this. It's an older EF 24mm, 24-70mm lens, which is a wonderful optic for doing all sorts of straightforward stuff. I use that with an adapter. The the EF version is good. The RF version, obviously more expensive, but it's a lot better. It's even more tack sharp than this. So
Yeah.
I'd recommend the RF version. And then if as a backup camera, no,
Oh, here we go.
I recommend this. But no, you wouldn't need anything like this. This is a 100 to 400 lens with a 1.4 converter and the adapter on an EOS R3, and this is my camera I use mainly at home. But what I'm trying to say is a longer lens would be absolutely perfect. So something like 70 to 200, 100 to 300. There's an RF 100 to 300, I think, which is only just recently came out, but something that will give you a nice zoom in and among that range. And
Yeah.
with just two optics, you can do so much. The main thing is to pack light, travel light, so it doesn't become, this bag of iron, as my wife calls it, when she lifts up my compact, I would say, camera bag.
Mm.
Oh, I ought to mention that. In fact, let me just mention the camera bag as well,
Yeah,
because
let's
I
have a
think
look.
this is a really good point. Um, I'll tell you what's actually in the bag once you've seen it. I've got this, and it's a think tank. I better zip it up. Actually, it's a think tank. What's called Streetwalker. What a
Yes,
fabulous name for a bag. It's a think tank Streetwalker. It's really deep, as you can see,
yeah.
but it's actually very compact. And I've got in this bag, would you believe it? I have a EOS R3, 100 to 400, a 1635, a 2470. I've also got a 100mm RF macro lens. I've also got microphones, LED flashlight panels, and
Mm.
other sort of like peripheral bits that I use, all in this tiny compact bag. Now, loads of bags often have a lot of, they look quite large, and when you open them up, there seems to be so much fabric and so much meat inside them that you don't really need, and all the
Yeah,
lenses are lying flat and everything. I can stick a 100 400 lens end first in that bag, and
brilliant.
70 to 200 we easily take it as well. So pack compact, that's the main thing I would say. If you're going to be doing other things, wandering around and having having to look after children, or travel or things like that, you don't want bulky stuff. And remember
Mm.
that you could have a suitcase or something like that you're taking with you, and you could then have a camera bag, like a roller bag or something, and then another smaller bag that you put inside your suitcase that you can decant everything into for a day out, so
Yeah,
that you're
nice.
not there looking like you're about to jump out of a plane with a parachute on your back.
Yeah.
And that will make an enormous amount of difference to how good you feel, how light you feel when it comes to this experience, because it's
It's a
all
good
about
point actually. Yeah.
psychology as much as anything else.
It's a good point actually. The whole thing about luggage, especially if it's more than just one or two of you. The thing about how much luggage you take is like a big deal in terms of obviously getting onto planes, but going to and from airports, and if there's plenty of other things going on, you don't want the distraction of having one or two extra bags that you could really do without. So yeah, that's the TARDIS of bag by the looks of it. It's definitely a good choice for sure.
But the main thing I would say to really understand about this from the beginning is it's all about flow, and it's all about preparation as well. So if you go away and you're going to turn up in a I don't know, a location, on a holiday location, like, I don't know, let's say something like Dubrovnik, then if you're going to go there, you really need to have a good list of things that you want to go and see and photograph. And
Mm.
it's a really good idea to, with your partner, work out whether you can both get access to all the things that you want to see, and then to know sort of when you think you want to go there, so you can time everything so that it all works okay. If I give examples, it's a good idea to go and visit a place in the daytime, and then it's a really good idea to maybe think about photographing that in the evening. And it could be that you go there for a visit in the day, and then once you've got back to the hotel and all the rest of it, you make a second journey out to be able to go and photograph that, with a tripod in nice conditions or lighting or something like that, on your own later on.
Mm.
Or you may find that that's not the case. It's not necessary to do that. In which case, what you can do is you can work out when's a good time to go there, and then time your trip together so that when you go there, you can get exactly what you're after at the same time. So
Mm.
I think somebody said, it's a really, really good idea to, whenever you leave the house with a camera, to go out with intention. And if you don't have
Mm.
intention, then you're often wandering around wondering what to even photograph. But if you know what to do and you can grab that camera photograph that moment or place like with military precision, like a sniper or something like that,
Mm.
you'll find that you got so much flow going on. You know where you're going. You know what you want to do. That you don't have to interrupt anybody or anything as you go. And that's worked very much for me throughout the last 15 years of doing this. And my wife is very patient. She often has to return with me to maybe more times to a particular location if things haven't worked. But on the other side of it, and I think this is a really good point, is that she'll often pull up locations she wants to go to that I don't think have any particular interest for me at all as a photographer. Like, give you an example, I was in Paris once and we went to the tomb of Napoleon. And I kept thinking, oh no, like this is quite a way out. I don't know what we're going to see on the way there. And I reluctantly sort of, this is early days, 2007, I guess,
Mm.
reluctantly went to Napoleon's tomb, crossed over the most amazing bridge and ended up photographing that. And then on the way back, it got really foggy. And I didn't realize at the time, but there were these wonderful, what's called a quadriga, which is like a chariot with 3 horses on top
Oh
of a
yeah,
monument. You
sounds
can see one
familiar.
at the Reichstag, for example, Brandenburg Gate, sorry. And
Mm.
and there were these beams just fanning out from this quadriga. It was utterly wonderful. So there we go. It's like sometimes if you're tuned in, the unexpected will happen.
Mm.
So all sorts of different things to play with. The set list, write a set list. Secondly, make sure that when you're traveling, that you're going to be looking out for things that are spontaneous at the same time. And then thirdly, don't worry about the fact that you didn't get it at that point. Then just arrange to come back and maybe come back on your own and then
Mm.
get it in nicer light or nicer conditions,
Mm.
like architecture or, city work or whatever, coastline work if you're on a coastal holiday throughout the summer months. Another thing to mention as well is the polarizer. Take polarizers with you for both lenses if you've got the two, because
Mm.
this will work so beautifully at creating a wonderful holiday feel to everything, especially if you're in blue skies. This whole thing about, oh, I don't ever photograph in hard light. Well, get used to it, because you can take some of the most fabulous pictures in the middle of the day if you polarize, cut reflections,
Mm.
make skies more blue by. It's not actually. Did you know it's not saturating anything? All it's doing is it's cutting the reflective frequency of light bouncing off microscopic particles in the air. And when you
Huh.
turn your
Wow.
polarizer like that, you're just tuning out that reflection.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Nice.
I've got all sorts of examples that I can show with regard to this. But the other basic advice I would say is batteries. Make sure you got enough batteries. There's there's nothing worse than breaking up the adventure by having to head back to the hotel to go and get more batteries. So make
Yeah.
sure you go away with batteries. Make sure you go away with a decent camera strap, and I don't mean one that says Canon or something written on the front of it that says, "Hey, look at me! I'm carrying loads of expensive gear." Get
Mm.
yourself a stretchy neoprene strap. I'm trying to think. I think Optech. Is it Optech? They make camera straps that are neoprene and they're
Mm.
slightly stretchy. They're really good because they give you a very comfortable experience wearing it, rather than these sort of neck cutting, sort of hard feeling sort of straps that often come
Mm.
bundled with your camera. So definitely get a decent strap, and yeah, keep everything understated. That's another thing I really think is very important. Don't look like a photographer. Don't wander around with all this clobber. One thing that happened to me in Rome many years ago was a guy pulled me to one side and he said, "Put your camera away." And I said, "Why is
Mm.
that?" He said, "Your watch as well." He said, "You look rich." And I said, "But I'm not." I said, "It's a fake Rolex." I said, "And my camera's just my camera." He said, "Yeah, but you look rich." He said, "You will be mugged." Okay, I said, and I suddenly learned that it's better to just look a bit scruffy, believe it or not.
Mm.
Don't dress up really well. Just keep yourself looking a bit understated if you're carrying a bag full of equipment,
Yeah.
and take your watch off and leave it in the hotel or something, and use a
Mm.
phone. And also when you're, if your bag's a bit dirty, a bit dusty or something like that, that's actually a good thing. So don't try and take out brand new everything and all the rest of it, because you will attract attention if you're
Mm.
wandering around with a camera. Coming back to this, I mean, look at the size of it.
Yeah.
Really? Is it really the sort of travel camera you need? Well, it's believe me, it's amazing, and I will use it when I'm abroad. But this is an attention-seeking missile. It really
Yeah.
is, and you've got to be really careful when you're traveling with expensive kit like this. This is more kit that I would use if I'm on running a photographic tour, like a workshop, or something I would do with that. If I was traveling and I was in a place where I need to be more subdued, this is the boy. It really
Yeah.
is. Look at the size difference as well. It looks like any other straightforward camera. That way
Mm.
you won't attract attention. You'll just be the same as every other tourist, except you're a super tourist, and that's the difference.
Absolutely. Well, I like what you say. You're talking about in terms of, packing, making sure actually you got a bag that where you can get lots in, because that's going to help practically. But also, I think that thing about having that shot list, that set list is really important as well, because then you're not just wandering around the whole holiday with the camera in your hand. It's very focused. You're literally very focused. And the thing about being understated as a photographer while you're on holiday is no bad thing, because you don't want to be getting the attention of the wrong people, because you could end up losing a lot of money because of it, and ruining the the enjoyment of the holiday as well.
Use the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, use the phone. Make a list of things that you're interested in photographing, and by having that list in preparation, realize that you will only get 75, maybe 80% of that list, and you're going to lose. But be okay with that.
Yeah.
Remember, this is not a solo holiday, should we say? If you,
Mm.
I'm imagining this being with maybe children, and but probably with a partner. And
Mm.
that if you do this, then realize that you're not going to get everything, but you're going to try to get most of it. The worst thing you can possibly do is just stand there with going, oh, but the light's not great, I'm going to wait. No, 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 no. You don't do that. What you do is you go and do a load of other things and then come back when the light's better, or when you
Mm.
think that things are better, so that you're not just like holding up the entire holiday by you standing there with your feet dug into the ground waiting for that moment. It's not going to happen. If it's
Mm.
cloudy and you can see there's a cloud break coming, then come back in 15 minutes.
Mm.
Don't I never stand there and stand there. I just sort of look at it and I go, right, there must be something else to do in the meantime. And I'm actually quite impatient as well. But that's also come because I want my wife to not feel as though she's hanging out with a production crew, which is not what a holiday's all about.
Yeah. Lovely. Well, yeah. Thanks very much. What we'll do is we'll definitely we'll be doing another session where you're taking us through some of your shots, and you can then revisit some of the things you've talked about already. But I really appreciate it. It's great spending some time talking about this, and look forward to chatting with you again shortly.